Welcome to the Cardboard Crash Course, Marvel Champions fans. My name's Ethan, and I'd love to talk to you about the new Mutant Genesis campaign expansion, as well as the Cyclops and Phoenix Heroes packs for Marvel Champions that I just got in the mail today. I've got a giveaway going right now for the Cyclops and Phoenix Hero packs down in my Discord, so go ahead and check that out. That runs for the next couple of days after this video uploads. I've always got giveaways going on, so new hero packs will definitely make their way down there. Go ahead and join if you'd like. So how are they doing with the X-Men? And is it worth getting into Marvel Champions right now if you're not too big of a fan already and don't have all the packs? Today I'm here to take a look at that. First of all, I'm going to check out the Cyclops and Phoenix Hero packs. Now Cyclops comes in Leadership and the Phoenix comes in Justice. These are full unique pre-con decks with tons of cards that you can split in between them. I actually believe that the Cyclops pack is pretty well constructed, all things considered. Now Scott Summers on his alter ego side has the ability you may include X-Men allies from any aspect in your deck. This is a deck building ability, of course, kind of like Adam Warlock or Spider-Woman there, but it's a little bit more restrained. Now his pack only comes with 3 X-Men allies that aren't already basic and don't belong to his leadership aspect already. But if you do buy all the content that is X-Men related at the moment, you're going to end up with a whole lot more allies to be able to use. And if you are running an ally spam, he's a great one for it. He's actually really focused on leading a team and playing multiplayer, the most that I've seen since Groot. He's focused on these new temporary upgrades that allow the whole team of heroes to do extra damage or expose somebody's weaknesses or prioritize a specific target. And he even has a card called Field Commander that lets him go first, no matter what the turn order is at the moment, in order to apply these temporary cards before they discard themselves at the end of the turn. His Optic Blast ability lets him spend resources to do damage to the people with upgrades on them as well. And his Ruby Quartz Visor exhausts itself to generate a resource from that Optic Blast ability. I think his hero pack is really well contained, but also allows for some serious deck building potential. He's a great hero pack to pick up, especially if you play multiplayer. Now I play almost pure solo, and I dabble in a little bit of two-handed solo when it comes down to it. So I did try him and Shadowcat together. Now his upgrades, I will tell you, are immensely powerful the more heroes you play with. Now, if you fight alongside Phoenix, you also have a team-up card that you can use between the two, and even if you're not, it is his signature ally. He's very powerful, and I think it's a great introduction into the X-Men Marvel Champions universe. Now moving on to Phoenix. Now, she's a little bit different. I do think that Jean Grey has some serious deck building potential, and the fact that she starts with this permanent Phoenix Force upgrade is a lot different than the other permanent upgrades such as phase forms we've seen in the past. It allows for some serious risk-reward gameplay, and if she unleashes too early, you can do some serious damage to the board and yourself. She's also one of the first heroes that has multiple ways to bring out her nemesis, and if you bring out her nemesis, the one time that I did, I immediately lost the game the turn after. So be super careful about that one. She has cards here such as Cerebro, which says exhaust it to search the top 5 cards for an X-Men ally and add it to your hand. So this is where we get into Marvel Champions, I believe is becoming more and more into buy everything for a certain cycle, and you will get all the cards for that cycle. What I mean by that is she comes with a lot of cards that Scott Summers would love to build his deck with, and he comes with a whole lot of cards that she would love to build her deck with. This isn't inherently bad, and somebody like me, who's going to buy all the packs anyway, no matter how many they make, it's really not too big of a deal. But if they make somebody like Psylocke, who's also psionic, even though Phoenix comes with a lot of psionic-only cards, people will be that much more pressured into buying those psionic abilities. And I've seen a lot more team-up upgrades in these packs as well. I'll talk about that a little bit later when it comes to the upcoming packs. Now what's nice is they're always keeping those team-up cards as your signature allies as well, but it is still pressure to get those. Overall, I think Phoenix is a great hero pack to get if you're really experienced with the game. Now, she's okay for single player, but I do think she's also a great multiplayer option because when it comes down to multiplayer and Dark Phoenix does inevitably come out, she's a lot more easy to deal with other heroes. So as long as you're playing two-handed solo or with other people, then you should be a lot better with Phoenix. So now into the nitty-gritty, the 243 card expansion Mutant Genesis. Now this adds a campaign just like everything else. I've noticed that the campaign is a little bit different, and I really appreciate that compared to a lot of other campaigns. It's not so much about buying cards as you go or creating and more about taking on a role such as the brawler or the protector or anything like that and actually playing with other people. Now these packs are pushing more and more into the multiplayer, which I actually love. Marvel Champions I feel like is best at 2 or 3 players. It does struggle a little bit with 4 because it is so long, especially if you're playing scenarios such as Kang the Conqueror, but it can be a really epic experience over the couple of hours that you're playing it. So the couple of heroes that we have in the Mutant Genesis pack are Colossus and Shadowcat. Now, Colossus, I would say, is the easier of the two. Looking at him, he of course has the gimmick of having an extra tough status card. He also gains a tough status card every time that he flips into hero form. So about every other turn, if you're flipping every time, you're going to get a tough status card and be able to spend those cards on things such as Bulletproof Protector, Steel Fist, and Made of Rage. These are cheap cards, but require you to pay that tough status card cost on top of their limited cost. These are really fun cards, and I think it's a really easy way to get people into the game. And if you're playing with a new player with X-Men heroes only, I would suggest giving them Colossus of the 4 that are released at the moment. He of course is protection, so far we have a leadership, justice, and protection deck. We'll be moving on to an aggression in just a moment, so they really rounded it out with all 4. He has cards such as Mutant Protectors, which allow you to cheat out X-Men allies. A little bit of a hint to be making Cyclops into a protection hero, as well as Powerful Punch. This isn't insanely good for Colossus, but it is good for other general protection heroes. And if you're going backwards in upgrades into the old Avengers and everything, then the Powerful Punch will really be something to consider. We of course also with this cycle get the start of reprinted cards with different art, such as Perseverance. I love this card, and I really love that it actually has Wolverine on it now. Whether or not my hero is an X-Men, I still think Wolverine really deserves to be there. They of course also have new resource cards like Defensive Energy. They allow you to draw cards when you're playing defense events. This can really be powerful for someone like Gamora or Drax that you're really wanting to boost up with those defense events on the enemy's turn. Even Ghost Spider in the previous wave. Now here's another team up with Shadowcat and Colossus. Thank God they're both in the same box this time. Colossus overall is a really strong, really great, really fun hero that can get you into the Marvel Champions world faster than Kitty Pryde. So let's take a look at her. Kitty Pryde, or Shadowcat, I think is the most complex of all of these heroes, even more complex than Phoenix. This really shows the age of the game, as the game has been out for a couple of years. But I can imagine that the X-Men are a starting point for a lot of players because of their popularity, so it's kind of strange that they included Shadowcat in the box instead of in a hero pack. That being said, she isn't too crazy to understand. She basically allows you to ignore guard, patrol, and crisis icons on cards. This allows you to get through things that you normally wouldn't get through. Perfect for Shadowcat. Her theming is all there with cards such as Quick Shift and Phase Strike that really take use of her solid versus phased mass form. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen this, and to me it seems a little bit strange that they went with the same ability, but I guess that makes it really cohesive in terms of comparing it to someone like Vision. To me, Shadowcat just doesn't seem as interesting, but I know that somebody out there is really going to love her. Colossus definitely has a worse nemesis than Shadowcat, and she isn't too difficult to get around, the White Queen, but she will throw off your game when she does come up, if just a little bit. I would definitely stick to Colossus if you're just getting into the game, but I do think that the Mutant Genesis pack contains enough scenarios to where her keywords really matter, and I've seen the crisis icon come up quite a bit. The scenarios in the pack really shake up Marvel Champions as I know it after the first couple encounters, which I think is perfect. Sabretooth is a pretty straightforward villain with a twist of having to save this Robert Kelly card throughout the whole encounter. but he does go down with just hitting him over and over again, which is perfect for new players. He has very simple cards such as dealing damage to Robert Kelly while you're trying to save him, or gaining scheme and attack, and really starting off with Sabretooth I think is a little bit more difficult than something like Brotherhood of Badoon, but it is a great way to introduce a new player to the game. Moving on to the very opposite, Project Wideawake and Master Mold. I kind of consider this a kind of two-parter scenario, sort of like Infiltrate the Museum and Escape the Museum from the Galaxy's Most Wanted packs. Project Wideawake is all about swarming you with Sentinels, and not just small minions. We're talking 2 scheme, 2 attack, 4 health, guard, patrol minions. This is where that guard keyword's coming in. If you love X-Men lore, then you'll love the Project Wideawake scenario because you really get to see the world's hatred of this new mutant crisis that's popping up. And if you're really into X-Men lore, Master Mold is kind of the leader of the Sentinels and has a crazy villain card to boot. 3 scheme, 4 attack with stalwart and toughness is really getting into some dangerous territory. Now, I haven't noticed that anything in this pack is Ronin levels of hard, or Galaxy's Most Wanted levels of hard in general, but I do think that Master Mold pushes the envelope in terms of difficulty, which is probably good for the 3rd scenario of a pack. The 4th of 5 scenarios is Mansion Attack. I find this one to be the least interesting because it has the least to do with the comics that I love, and these characters weren't too popular in the movies, although a few of them did make appearances back then anyway. This is Avalanche, Blob, Pyro, and Toad all fighting you at once, and it has kind of a throwback to the Wrecking Crew, but this is sort of if the Wrecking Crew was done correctly. It's a lot harder, I've noticed, to break, and the way the activations work is kind of based off the Sinister Six, although you definitely feel like they're coming at you all at once instead of one by one like that scenario. So it definitely provides more of a, oh my gosh, what is going on situation that I think new players will kind of think is fun after the first few scenarios there. And ending with Magneto. This is the one that I was super excited for. Starting off with 2 scheme, 2 attack with steady and toughness, and adding magnet counters to the horrible main scheme is really not something to scoff at all. Magneto I found to be a lot less gimmicky than other 5th scenarios in this campaign box. Something like Hela or Venom Goblin that have so many things going on, just having these magnetic counters climb up and having to avoid that is kind of a breath of fresh air. It isn't as simple and difficult as Ronin once again, but it is a great big encounter and really feels like Magneto just growing his power with all of the magnets around him. It's a great way to finish it. One thing that I would find very lacking in this box is the low amount of modular encounter sets. There were only 5 in total, and even the Hood scenario pack came with 9. Now I'm really hoping for something a little bit better in the upcoming packs, but it was kind of disappointing to see. However, I do think that they really did a good job tying the new X-Men cards together to make their whole new tribe and make them really stand out and powerful, but a lot of those cards still can be mixed in with your old cards. It gives them a new flavor, a new life, but really builds them into Marvel Champions as it already stood. In terms of the products themselves, these 2 hero packs and the Mutant Genesis pack is a perfect starting point after getting that core set there, and I really do think that these are going to stand the test of time without being overpowered. So speaking of encounter sets, I'd love to talk about the Mojo Mania scenario pack coming up. This comes with so many encounter sets that I am just so excited to add to my collection. Now this is a great way to push these scenario packs, as I can imagine they're probably the least popular of all of the types of packs for this game. Especially considering that Mojo, although I know about him, the general public will probably see this scenario pack and not understand what is going on at all. But his scenarios look like a ton of fun, and I think they're really holding that theme, if not just a little wacky. But, of course, they're saving the best for last for this cycle. Wolverine and Storm are so incredibly popular to the X-Men world that it is a sin that they did not put them in the Mutant Genesis pack to begin with. Now, it is nice having Colossus and Shadowcat, but Wolverine and Storm being in separate hero packs is a pretty good business move on their point, because those are the two that I believe will be purchased the most, even if you don't get the full campaign expansion. They've shown off some fantastic cards for them, and I've started to notice team-up cards being in a lot of packs that don't actually include the hero. The Wolverine pack includes a Colossus and Wolverine team-up card, and the Phoenix pack includes a Storm and Phoenix team-up card. Now, this did happen with things such as Quicksilver, War Machine, and the like, but I've noticed it more and more recently, and they've really been ramping up their production of these hero packs. As long as they keep this quality up, I think this game will keep going on for a long time, and these two characters, I will absolutely make videos of their own when they release. Paying with Your Life with Wolverine and all of the different weather environments with Storm, they show so much originality and really will shine by themselves even if you don't have all of the sets. So do I think this is a good product? I do. Now, it's a little bit lacking with those modular encounter sets, but I think they've learned with their mistakes, with things such as Galaxy's Most Wanted being way too difficult, and they've really toned it in and made it so they can always constantly have new heroes and new excitement without having to do that power creep every single time. This game is going to be going on for a long time, I can imagine, if Arkham Horror LCG has anything to say about it. So what's next for Marvel Champions? Well, I'd like to paint a little bit of a picture. Fantasy Flight at Gen Con did say that the next cycle will be X-Men as well. So we aren't just getting these 6 heroes and 8 villains that the packs are including. We're also going to be getting a whole nother wave of X-Men, which I think is fair. X-Men are their complete inner subset of the Marvel Universe, and I really do think they deserve their own couple of cycles. So what's that cycle gonna look like? Well, it'll be probably a campaign box alongside 2 heroes. I can imagine that an X-Men that they'd love to include would be Psylocke, as mentioned earlier. And if you're including Psylocke, why not include Angel as 2 of the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse? You could have 2 hero packs of the other 2 and make the campaign box about Apocalypse himself. I think that would be a really intimidating, really great way to get a cycle of new heroes into the game. But what's beyond that? What's beyond X-Men? Well, I can think of another group of 4 that would really love to have 2 of their heroes in a box and 2 hero packs to go alongside it. That's right, Fantastic Four. Now, having the Thing and Invisible Woman in the pack and the other 2 outside, I think would be a great way to sell it. And I can imagine they would have some interesting ways of making the Thing kind of a better version of the Hulk. So Fantastic Four, I think, is the best next option for this game, at least in my personal opinion. What would you love to see out of Marvel Champions next? Go ahead and leave that in the comments below, and don't forget to join the Discord for this giveaway and any future giveaways I've got going on. Thank you so much for joining me in the Cardboard Crash Course. Have a great rest of your night.